Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this next session today at Check. The title of the session is Developing, Designing, and Implementing Virtual Chatbot for ServiceNow, presented by Kansas State University. Before I introduce our presenters, I do want to remind everybody to please use the link in the YouTube chat to submit your questions for the team. They will be ready to answer questions at the end of their presentation. So I'm going to start with, today we have Waldo Berry, Fred Darkow, Michael Spears, John Solomon, and Michael Ruckert. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Waldo Berry. I work at the IT Help Desk here at Kansas State University as the operations manager, and I'm also one of the ServiceNow admins.
And my name is Fred Darkow. I'm the Help Desk Trainer Coordinator for the IT Help Desk at K-State.
I am Michael Spears, and I am one of our admins and our developer.
My name is John Solomon. I'm a senior in computer science, and I'm a lead consultant at the Help Desk.
Hi, my name is Mike Ruckert. I'm a senior in computer science, and I work at the K-State IT Help Desk.
And as has already been stated, we are going to be talking about developing, designing, and implementing virtual chat or chatbot for ServiceNow. This is our agenda for today. We're going to cover, first we're going to cover why we even considered ServiceNow virtual chat. We're going to look at some of the benefits for the users and for support staff. Then we're going to have a really large demo session by our primary heavy lifters on this project. That's John Solomon and Michael Ruckert, where they're going to cover the different interfaces, live demonstration of the virtual chat from the user and the support position, and an overview of the development and design phases. Then followed by Michael Spears, who's going to talk about some of his work on the implementation side to get things up and running. And then we'll round it out with future plans that we have for the system and answer any questions that you might all have. So why did we consider doing virtual chat? The main reason is because ServiceNow virtual chat is very unique in that it can do automated conversations for everyone, as you can see here. We needed some way that we could expand our self-services interactions with users and allow them to do a lot more self-support. And with the COVID thing coming along, we're going to need that even more and more to expand our resources. We can program it so it can ask the right questions and actually guide the user to the areas that they need to find the answers for. And as you can see here, it's going to expand that experience, making them more capable of finding and using the knowledge bases and different things within the system. Give them more confidence so that they know that they don't have to necessarily wait until the help desk is open to call, and they can call at any time and use a virtual chatbot to get those answers. And if they still need assistance, they can always queue up a consultant at any time to help them out.
So what is the user's perspective? Why would we actually need to have a virtual chat available so customers can use it? What are the benefits? What really drove our reasoning to get this project started? Well, first, of course, you're going to get some automated service. One of the things that has always plagued help desks is, are you open? And if you're not open, how do we get help? So the virtual chat allows automated self-service right up front, even before they may need to talk to a live person. So very important there. Virtual agent handles all of those top support questions. So basically we put in our top 10 questions, passwords, wireless, etc., and created those trees, and the customers can get those resolutions 24/7, regardless of whether or not there's a live person actually there to contact. The answers, they're all pre-programmed. So we've taken all of our previous tickets from ServiceNow and said, what were they asking? What kind of information did we need to get? And it's put into the chatbot, so it follows the same pathway that they would normally have. And then when possible, it puts them over to our knowledge base how-to articles that are stored in ServiceNow as well. So it makes it really easy for the customers to find the right information based on past knowledge and past answers they've provided with the same issues. The other thing that virtual chat can do is provide information on current records. So how is my ticket doing? Has anybody answered it? What is the current status? Should I expect a callback? And it can check on those incidents that have already been created for them in ServiceNow, so they know what's going on. Oh, I'll get a call tomorrow, or this is in progress, whatever it might be. Also in the chatbot, and this is one of the really nice features, is when they put the information into the chat, they can go ahead and, nope, it didn't resolve the issue. That data is transferred into a ServiceNow incident ticket. So that allows us to get the data even before we talk to the customers so we can troubleshoot them better. And then of course, last but not least here, troubleshoots with the customer so they can diagnose their own issue if that's possible, and thereby giving them a faster resolution. Now, on the other side, if you're a support person, what are the benefits? Why would we want to do virtual chat as that first tier support person? Well, first off, we're not always there. So live support, customer gets the resolution, even though we're not there. But if the customer can't fix it themselves, they can say, I need to talk to a person, and that live support first tier is available during our regular hours. As I mentioned earlier, the chat data automatically gets included into the incident or request if that's required to do. And even better, the help desk, the managers, we get usage data and analytics to find out just how effective is our tree that we've programmed in there, how well did it fix it, so that way in the future we can do updates if necessary. The interface is very useful for the supporting consultant. It gives us the information in certain formats, which John and Michael will show us in a little bit. It's very flexible when you're developing it. John and Michael jumped in and said, how do we do this? And they were able to take a few days, say, oh, well, here's the process, here we go. And they were able to get everything pulled together in a relatively short time, considering that they were working maybe 2 hours a week or so, or 2 to 10 hours a week to develop this. It can be tailored for many different topics. So very important. We're using it for help desk, but HR could also use it for common questions. It can be used to put into work orders into ServiceNow instead of having to worry about talking to a live person right away. New student services can answer the common questions, common information about COVID-19, for example, which is a big deal right now. And then any FAQs that people may have across campus can be added in as a tree. And then of course, big thing, allows you to better handle high demand periods. So beginning of the fall semester, especially enrollment periods where the staff, we're all taking the phone calls, and the virtual chat can actually help most of those common issues and stop the extra flow to the help desk while still being able to resolve the issues for your customer.
All right, so this is what the user interface looks like on the customer user side. So you can see it's a little pop-out window that, and we'll show you that during the live demo. But it has some support options up in the top right, as well as the ability to end the current topic that you're in and start a new conversation if you realize that that topic isn't exactly what you wanted. You can also see this welcome message, which is fully customizable, as is the appearance. So at the top there, it has kind of the icon with the now support. We have that changed, and you'll see, to a K-State logo with, I believe it still says now support, but those are all fully customizable. And then these bot responses, this is just the bot going through a tree based on the user input right there. And then at the very end, you can see that there is this Show Me Everything tab. So this is when you first get into the, when you first open it up. it will either let you type in a message and it will look based on those keywords, or you can just say, show me everything, and it'll show you all of the topics that are available to your role. And that kind of goes into what Fred was saying about it being able to be used in multiple departments for multiple different things. And the ServiceNow agent can check which topics are applicable to you based on your role within ServiceNow.
So the chatbot can answer a lot of questions, but the answers have to be programmed into it. If the customer feels that the questions aren't quite right, what they can do is in the top right corner of the chatbot, click the three dots, and that will open up some options for context support. And they can either start an email or call, but in our case, we have call turned off, I believe. The great thing is that they can contact a live agent, which will ping a help desk consultant, and the consultant would open up the chat, and the customer could start chatting to the consultant in actual time. And here we see a customer talking to an agent, and if they had to, you could also attach files to the chat. So if they had a screenshot, that would help the consultant to troubleshoot the problem. They could click the attachment icon in the bottom right corner there to attach it, and it would attach it straight in to the ticket. So now let's go ahead and check out what the chatbot actually looks like with our demonstration.
And Mike, do you want to share your screen for the user side?
Yeah. Minimize that part. Okay, so this is the IT service portal page that a customer would see when they needed help. To open up the chatbot, you just click this icon in the bottom right corner to start the chat.
And where that icon is, it doesn't have to be, on this predefined portal. It can be embedded into several websites.
Yeah. The great thing is that it caches previous chats that you might have had. So it saves them in case you might need them. So here's what it would look like to start a conversation. And again, this can be customized for your needs. If you click this, it will show you all of the active topics that we have currently published. Let's go back and suppose a common question we get at the help desk is from graduated students who need to order a transcript, but they don't remember what their EID will, and that's actually what we at K-State refer to as our usernames. Suppose they forgot what that is. Let's say they type in here, recover EID, and you see there it pops up. They click that. And then the conversation proceeds. It asks you to enter your name. I'll just do mine for now. And it asks you if that's correct. Yes, it is. And then it returns my actual EID. So suppose they had a common name. Let's do John Smith. it would return all the possible ones they might have. And then in that case, they would probably just need to call the help desk anyways to make sure.
And this is a great bit of programming that Mike did for this topic. Is it's interacting with our databases on the back end. So it's looking through those ServiceNow databases to find these EIDs. And it can actually access a ton of different databases for anything that any help desk or any department might need.
And then if they needed to start a new conversation, they could just click this icon here. And let's go ahead and show you a different topic. A common call we get at the help desk is people having problems with our Duo two-factor authentication system. So we see that here on the list there. So let's start that one. And let's say they can't sign in, and let me drag that out. So suppose that's not quite helping, right? I can click up here to the contact support options. And if I click here, it will start a conversation with a help desk consultant. The great thing is you can actually program in the schedule that your help desk is actually open. So that way, if a customer comes here and it's outside of your operating hours, they won't have an option here to chat with a help desk consultant. So that way, if they try, they're not just sitting there waiting. So let's go ahead and start a conversation.
Yeah, and we can show them what it's like on your end for a little bit, and then we can take it over to the consultant end. So I'm in the back end, and I just answered the queue from Michael. And so you can see anything, it still looks very much like the bot is responding, but you can see it changed in the top right to be now agent. So that's that kind of visual cue for the customer that things have changed. And on the back end, this is what it looks like. So you can see that I can still see the history of Michael's chat. So I can see, okay, he went into the Duo troubleshooting, he can't sign in, and then the virtual agent gave him some recommendations, but those clearly weren't helping. So he's contacting a live agent. So already I have a ton of information that I wouldn't have otherwise, and with many different chatbots. The great thing about the ServiceNow chatbot as well is that it can hook up to the knowledge base. So this is our dev side knowledge base, so it's a little funky. We don't have a lot, but on the live build, this would connect directly to your main knowledge base. And you can see several different knowledge bases that we can look through here. So I can go into technical knowledge and look through, anything that I might need for that ticket, and it's in the same window, which is really, really nice. You can also look at the members in the chat, and this is a feature that our help desk doesn't utilize very often. Maybe we will now once we implement the chatbot, but you can kind of see what Michael's profile looks like, get an idea of their role at K-State. And you can also see any attachments that they have sent to you, and you can send them attachments. So if you have some paper forms, let's say, like for example, we still have a paper form for people to fill out if they want to change their username. And I could send that very easily over this chat section. And then you also have some notification preferences. That's purely for the consultant. And then the really, really cool thing if you go down to the bottom left to the hamburger in the chat options, you can create an incident. And that creates a new kind of tab in the top right. And you can now see that it funneled his EID in, and that was because he was logged in when he started talking to the chatbot. So you can see that it filled in his EID, his name, and if I just put in some general information for this, so I go through and I actually, lagging a little bit. So if I were to go through and actually create this ticket, it will put the chat information into the ticket. And my Firefox seems to be crashing. Mike, do you want to take this? Oh, there we go.
Sure.
Never mind,
Okay,
it pops
great.
back up. So yeah, I'll just fill in. And you can also have a source as the virtual agent. And then if I save that, now I can still see the record in this, but it also creates an incident that the customer can look at. So it sends it to them in the chat. And then if I go to the incident in a separate tab, you can see that down here in the work notes is all of Mike and the virtual chat's records. And then anything between the live agent and the user is saved as additional comments. So those are things that are public facing to the user. And yeah, that pretty much covers it. It's really, really nice. You can see the queue here on the left. And that shows you how many people are waiting in that queue. You can also see, I know some help desks like to have multiple cases open, and you do have that option to have these running chats, and you have the option to be helping multiple people at once. So, if the user said that they were going to lunch, let's say, you could let them keep their case open while you continue to help other people. So there are really a lot of great options here. All right.
Yeah. So, and since John created a ticket in our case here, let me switch back to my screen so I can show you that. Yeah. So we see here that John created an incident ticket, and it automatically put all the information into the ticket. And as the customer, I can click this link here to open up the ticket if I needed to. So that way I could check on the status of it. So, and it has all the information in it. Yeah, so that is just a quick demonstration of the chatbot in action. So now let's kind of talk about what we did to develop it. This is the designer page, and it shows all of the current topics, which is what they refer to as conversations, basically. So let's go ahead and take a look at the one I did earlier to recover an EID, which is this one right here. Here we see that we can title the topic and name there, a description. You don't have to have a category. The great thing here is you can put in keywords so that when the customer types it in to search for help, it'll return the correct topics. And let's go ahead.
You also have that great roles feature. So if you wanted something that was internal, like say a quote option for a new computer, you can have that only available to full-time employees, and you can set that up in the roles option.
Yeah. So let's take a look at what that topic looks like in terms of the flow chart. So here it is. Overall, it's a pretty straightforward topic. There's not too many branches on it. And then if we zoom in, we can see the actual steps it takes. So here it asks you to enter your first name and then your
And then it saves
last
that
name.
answer as that variable name, which was, and here it would be name underscore correct. And so then you can reference that later in the flowchart.
Here it checks it prompts the customer asking if they've entered the name correctly to make sure that there aren't any typos. If they see that it's not correct, they would click no, and we see here the branch would take them back up to the top to enter it correctly. If they did, it would proceed to our script part. And the great thing about this in designing these topics is that you don't really need to know how to code much. If a person understands how a flowchart would work and how a decision tree would work, anybody could do this. The part that you do need to code is where you're querying your databases or stuff like that. So,
which is totally optional. You know, this is one of our only topics that has this bit of scripting in it, which does make it very powerful. But you could have, you know, maybe one person on the team do scripting, and the rest don't even really need to know how to code. And if you wanted to, you could set up most of these topics with no one on the team knowing how to code. So it's a very simple but powerful tool.
Yeah. So here is that query script. It's actually not a ton of code at all. As you see, it just queries our tables to find the customer's EID. So that's a pretty straightforward topic. Well, let's go ahead and look at one that's more complicated, like the one we showed you earlier for Duo. This one this one I had a lot of fun with, as you can see. It's a pretty common question or a type of call that we get at the help desk, is people calling asking for help with Duo, and there could be a ton of causes to their problem. So I tried to cover everything I possibly could to explain what the problem might be. Chances are they'll still have to call the help desk anyways, but at least here they could start a chat and create an incident through that, so that way the help desk would already have all of that information there.
Yeah, and that way we're not repeating work when they come back. And this is a great example of a massive tree that really takes on a fairly complex topic, but has zero coding. These are all just prompts and decision trees based off of those prompts. All right, and we could take a quick look at the dashboard if we're not running too low on time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to do that, John?
Sure.
Go for it.
So this is the metric dashboard for the virtual agent. So it has a lot of really great built-in analytics. I mean, this is just the default. We have not set any of this up. This is just what it default gives you as analytics, which is really great. So you can see daily number of new conversations. That's just flat out how often are people using the chatbot. You can also see completed conversations, faulted, open conversations by topic and device. You can also see unique users. So how many new people are you getting and how many different people are you getting rather than just the same person going through a bunch of different topics. You can also see weekly conversations by topic. So you can see, you know, maybe a topic that you thought was going to be more used is not. And that can also be great for knowing what people on campus, what their issues are. So you can see, okay, those duo topics are getting hit a lot. Maybe we need some communication on duo. So then you can get with the communications team and talk about that. So it's really, really great for metrics and for presenting those to higher ups. Yep. And it's even more customizable, so you can put a lot more work into it. This is just the default, and even the default is fairly robust. Yeah. I think that about does it for the development side. It's very simple but very powerful.
Okay, so next, Michael Spears will cover his actions as far as a developer with implementing.
Okay, yeah, so as the ServiceNow admin, I did the basic things to get this set up in our environment, and it was really straightforward and easy. So first of all, you need to enable the plugins, and in ServiceNow, you just go to the plugins page and install the virtual agent plugin. And ServiceNow actually has a documentation website that has instructions for turning on the virtual agent and setting it up. Actually, I think I'll just share that real quick. Okay, yeah, so I've got the ServiceNow documentation website up, and they have instructions on implementing virtual agent. So the first step is activating the plugin. There's some dependencies, such as the connect support, and that's what enables the live agent functionality. But so after you enable the plugin, then you need to create a group to grant access to the developers so that they can use that interface to create different topics. And so in ServiceNow, usually how you grant access is you create a group and then you assign a role to that group. So for virtual agent, there's the virtual agent admin role. So you grant that role to the group, and then you add members to that group, and then they get that access. But so then after you have that set up, then you create the queue for the live agents. So that's part of the Connect support application. And so you create the queue, and we just called ours the help desk virtual agent support. You select what assignment group is going to be providing the support for this queue. And you can configure different messages. The initial response of the agent, the virtual agent, when it's transferring you. And if the live agents are unavailable, then what message do you want to be displayed? You can configure a schedule of hours for when the live agent's available. So then when you have that set up, then you want to set up so that the service portal can access the virtual agent. So the old way of doing that, there's actually a widget that you can just add to a page, and that gives that little icon that they were showing in the bottom corner that you click on and it pops up the interface. But so here on the back end, we want to map what that queue that we just created, that support queue, to the different virtual agent queues. So here's that group we created, the help desk virtual agent support for the ITSM queue. So virtual agent, you can have different virtual agents for different applications, but what we're primarily interested in currently is ITSM. But then, so you have that queue set up, and under the service portal settings, you go to virtual agent or agent chat, and then you can select what portal you want the virtual agent to be applied to, and then any roles associated. And you can actually have a virtual agent be public, or you can require them to be logged in. But yeah, so I mean, it was pretty straightforward to set up and configure. And the documentation website of ServiceNow really helps a lot. So it's good to reference that as you're doing during your implementation.
Okay, so to wrap things up, we'd like to talk a little bit about just briefly what our future plans are for the system. We want to continue to develop additional self-help trees to expand the system as much as possible. And one thing you may not have realized is that ServiceNow changed their support structure for contracting, and so virtual agent doesn't come as part of the base structure for the agent, but it is part of your dev side server. So we were able to do all of this work on the development side. That means that we can go in, fully develop the virtual agent, get all of our trees built, get everything ready to go, and then use this as a platform to demonstrate to administration the value of adding a virtual agent. Then a decision can be made if we want to implement, and if so, we simply just transfer all of the work that we did on the development side onto production, and our virtual chat agent is up and running in full production mode. So that's part of our exploring options for using outside IT. That's one of our other pitches that we want to push forward, is that it's not just for IT support. We could use it for HR. You could use it for student services, for recruitment, for a lot of different areas, and trees can be built for a lot of different groups in different areas. And as the students mentioned, this is pretty easy to do, and any organization can be taught how to build trees and add to them as they want to, so they can be self-supporting. And also we'll formalize our case criteria for adding to the agent. Fred, you want to talk about the rest of our plans?
Sure. So some of the last couple of things here to talk about. We are still working to get that formal request to upgrade to our upper level to the CIO and provost, so we can get the upgrade to ServiceNow, so we can start using the virtual agent. As John and Michael showed you, it's easy to use. We already have multiple trees embedded there, and it could be an incredible use for the help desk on the front end especially. And also we're continually developing the business process that use the virtual chat as the entry portal, so that way trying to make it more usable by other units on campus, so it's not just the help desk, and we'll have those processes ready for if other people want to use it, we can just give them those processes, and they can also take advantage of what we have built into the system and add it in with the virtual chat.
So if you do need to reach out to us, if you have any questions, here's our contact information. If you can't grab it now, you can grab it when you rewatch this presentation. Also, there's a link at the bottom that goes directly to the ServiceNow documentation that talks about the virtual agent. Some of our screen captures were from images from that page. And there are several videos on what the virtual agent is capable of doing and what it can do for you. So at this time, we'd like to open up the floor if there's any questions that you might have.
Okay, great, Waldo. We did have some questions come in. The first question is, does Show Me Everything list everything in your knowledge base? So does the Show Me Everything show everything in your knowledge base, or just what you have chat trees created for? Did that make sense? I kind of mangled that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, that only shows chat trees, and specifically, it only shows chat trees for your role. So it's very so. Show me everything is everything. All of the topics that have been created for your role.
Okay. The next question was, how does this virtual agent tool protect against misuse? Do people have to validate in? Is it only public information shared through the app?
As I mentioned earlier, and I think Michael mentioned that you can have a public one versus more restricted information. All of the information that's generally presented, especially when we have the user log in, the login process itself protects information there. Any of the information is presented, things like, for instance, what's a person's EID is actually public information, and anyone can get that by going to the K-State website. Information within it about, for instance, their specific ticket is only going to be presented to that person who is asking information about that ticket, because it knows that they have logged in and that that's them, and it's only going to present apply.
Okay. So your virtual agent does not have a personality frame. Was that on purpose? If you were to create a frame, would it be Willie the Wildcat or who?
We could
Yeah.
definitely do that. Yeah.
Yeah, totally could. Yeah, I think right now this is more of a proof of concept so that we can present it to administration and get it implemented. I think personality frames like Willie the Wildcat will probably come later, but they're totally doable.
So the tool isn't actually live yet for users at this time.
No.
Yeah, we're still waiting for the purchasing decision and getting the contract and adding it into our current version of ServiceNow.
Okay,
But this is a great example of everything that you can do without it being live.
sure. Do you have a quick bypass so a person can get to a human right away, especially for complex processes during office hours?
They would have to start a conversation first. And then after they start a conversation, if they just click in the top right corner and just choose the option to contact IVE agent.
Yeah,
Okay.
you just have to start a topic, and that's mainly so that the help desk knows going in kind of what your problem's about.
Okay, so that's
In
the
worst
first.
case scenario, they can call us as well.
Okay, so the chatbot would be the first place you encourage everyone to go before they call the help desk?
Well, that's only if they decided, let's say, for instance, they tried to call the help desk and the phone lines are all busy or it's going to voicemail. They could start in the chat bot. That means that we have another group of agents who spend all of their time doing nothing but monitoring email or Bumgar or, for instance, the virtual agent. So they might actually get through somewhere that way also. But what we hope is that they'll be able to solve some of their problems on the front end before they even get to that point. If not, then they can feel free to chat with us and we can work with them. We want to stretch and expand our support capability with this application.
Okay. Well, that looks like about all of our questions and about all of our time. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for sharing with us. It was a great presentation. I learned a lot too about chatbots. I'm really excited to do one at ESU too. Anyway, so thank you again. We have some more presentations yet this afternoon. I hope you all will join us for the rest of those, but thank you again.